No. Where are they?
Camo.
Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Moving to Texas team, Coldwell Banker Realty here in Houston, Texas, here with Nikki Graham and our good friend Paige Bowman. Y'all, what's going on? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday indeed.
Really exciting moment. Today we are live on both Facebook and YouTube. So pretty exciting moment in the live stream Taco Tuesday world. What do y'all think?
Big move.
I'm excited. What are we? Six of these episodes in?
Episode 6.
And now we're just making moves.
Still haven't made the move to actually hang out in person, but we
get tacos.
You guys ate tacos one of the times. Y'all ate tacos one of the times.
It's great.
They count.
One day we'll have tacos. It's cool. I'm just trying to get this pulled up on my phone here. No, like it's cool that one day we'll have them is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It'll be a big day.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get this pulled up. All right, y'all. If you are out there watching, let us know where you are watching from. I see a few people are, logged on, hopped on. So yeah, let us know where you're watching from. What I wanted to talk about today was buying a property in Houston, but not necessarily buying a house to live in, but investing in real estate. That should have been a little, yeah.
I know, we should have had a drum roll.
Well, maybe next time. We're
getting there, guys. Listen, we're on YouTube today. Next time is going to be sound effects.
Yeah.
We need to get Sarah the post production editing of like boom and like drum rolls and things. But so yeah, anyways, we're talking about real estate investing today. So just generally speaking, we'll kind of go through a few different topics. If y'all have questions in regards to investing in real estate, please drop them in the comments. Would love to see them so that we can discuss them. But yeah, let's dig in, I guess. Paige, what are your thoughts on investing in real estate?
I enjoyed the topic, and I think you know that. Viewers out there, I enjoy the topic of investing in real estate. It's something I'm passionate about and becoming more and more passionate about. But I think there are pros and cons to investing in real estate. And yeah. What about you, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting the question a lot lately with investing. I think like having somebody run the numbers for you, knowing what that interest rate's going to look like, knowing what all the other expenses minus just, the mortgage, there's a lot of things that kind of impact, if you're going to see that return on investment. And I think that's what we're going to probably dig in today.
Yeah, maybe something we dig into today. Brian, he says, thanks for this. Thank you for tuning in, Brian. We appreciate it. Yeah, so I guess let's start off with like everyone's favorite topic is the flip, right? I think that's people like. I blame HGTV for the flips and people like making it look like it's a 30-minute thing, because like every single investor I know that actually does flips has at least one, but generally more than one, like horror story, right? Of like, oh my God, it was supposed to be a 6-week job. It was a 6-month job. It A, B, C, D, we had to replace the entire wall of the house or the roof or something that wasn't expected, right? So, I think that HGTV makes it look a lot more exciting and attractive than it may be in real life. But let's talk about it a little bit. For those of you that may not know what a flip is, right? The general premise or idea is that you're going to purchase a home at a below market value price, toss a little bit of money into it, maybe paint a few walls, counters, cabinets, flooring, things like that, make it look a little bit more on trend, and then sell it at or above market value. And that at or above market value is called the ARV, or after repair value. So yeah, that's like the general concept, right? Paige, do you want to dig into kind of like how people may do that, or like where they find the monies?
I first off would like to say that Flip or Flop show, Christina and Tarek or Tariq or whatever his name is. Sorry, I apologize. I'm butchering his name. But I would like them to like make a show or like a whole season of like their fails, because everybody sees like the glitz and glamour. They live in multi-million-dollar properties. They do all this crazy stuff, but like also how much money have they lost throughout doing this? Like, sure, go ahead, Katie.
I'll say I feel like they've shown some like woes on the show, but yeah, it's mainly just
it's all wins.
Oh no, and then they win.
It's like successful people. You know, people are like, oh gosh, look at them, they're so successful. They're an overnight success, but what they didn't see was the grind of the 80 hours a week, you know, grinding it out. So it's just it's the exact same thing. But you can have great successes very easily. But in order to purchase a flip home, you can use your cash that you just have laying around. You know, you got $150,000 just chilling in your
mattress.
Yeah, there you go, mattress money in my little drawer here. I have $150,000. You can use.
I've got
cash.
5.
Perfect. We're on the way. We're headed.
Start.
And $100 gift card.
Wow. We have $105, guys. What can we buy? So you would use cash. You could leverage, you know, investments that you might have in the marketplace, liquidate those to purchase it. You can do hard money loans, which is a whole nother show for a whole nother topic, but it's a higher.
Yeah.
I got you. I'm going there. I'm taking us there. It's a higher higher interest rate for a shorter term investment. Typically they're 6, maybe 9, maybe 12 months. You typically pay points, which is a 1% typically of your loan. If you have a $100,000 loan, 1% is $1,000, 2% is $2,000. So if you ever hear people talk about discount points, that's what that is. So yeah, and then you can, you know, ask your mom to give you the money too, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and one note too on hard money loans is like normally they're not going to give you the full ARV. Normally it's like a smaller amount, maybe 70-ish%, 75% maybe, right? So like if you know that you can flip this home and it'll be $500K, they're only going to give you like maybe 70-75% of that $500K, right? To purchase and then put that into the property. So yeah. Just a note there.
And they're typically interest only for the life of the loan. But again, you're paying 10, 15, 12% interest on this, you know, $200,000 over 6 months course of time. You also have to look at your holding fees and what that looks like. So there definitely is a lot of math and math and charts and such that go, yeah, graphics is fine. Word art that go into creating these spreadsheets. To, you know, basically make sure that you're profitable, right? At the end of the day, do you have margin for error?
But you should always have margin for error built into your deal, and be conservative on the ARV. The person that's trying to sell you the rundown home is going to give you an ARV that's likely higher than the ARV that the home actually will sell for. All right, so you flip this home, or you fix this home, right? You fix it up, right? And then Nikki, what are some options? It's all fixed. It's pretty.
I've called you. I'm ready to sell my home.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can do one of two things. You bought the home, you put some work into it. You can either fix and flip it, which is what we obviously see a lot on HGTV, or you can flip and hold. So basically you find a tenant to move in and you use it as a rental property. You can hold it for, you know, a couple years and then turn around and sell it, or you can, you know, hold it for 10 plus years. You know, it's kind of up to you and how long you want to keep that investment. You know, those are the different options. But whenever you start looking into like the flip and hold, the key thing is obviously running the numbers and looking at what, you know, the rental prices are in that area. Because if you throw in, you know, a ton of money into the renovations and you want to get some money out of it, but the rental prices in that area just don't support that, and then you can kind of run into some issues. So again, all goes back to the numbers.
Definitely. And if I can, I'll speak on that just a little bit about flipping and holding. So when you flip and hold, you have the opportunity, we use that ARV. And so you have the opportunity to go in and buy these properties that are, you know, let's just say $150,000, you put $50,000 into it, it's worth $300,000. You refinance it, and now you refinance it into, let's just say, between 4 and 5% interest rate, and you can hold that property. So you do have the ability to refinance it and potentially not put any additional money down that you've already put down, because we can utilize that as it would be just like a regular refinance.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and that obviously brings down the cost some, right, on a longer term basis. So
Yes.
Yeah, fixing and flipping or fixing and holding, both options as far as the renovation front, investment front, and all that. One thing that I feel like is a little bit more difficult in Houston, but is definitely doable, is the short-term rental game, the Airbnb game. The reason why I say it's a little bit more difficult to get into is like a lot of the condo communities in like, you know, the Houston area generally will like require a 6 to 12 month lease on a specific property, right? In the condo buildings, right? But like homes and duplexes and things like that, like likely aren't subject to the same, you know, rules and standards as a condo would. What are your guys' thoughts on short-term rentals?
I would love to get into the game.
Cool.
Because it can make sense, but you also have to think about every single person that goes in there, if there's the opportunity to damage your home, and you know, what is that damage fee that Airbnb, you're not going to recoup every single dollar that they damage. And so that is a huge reason why I have not tried to tiptoe my way into that, you know, market, is because there's so much, you have to have plenty of cash on hand.
Yeah.
And that's a huge risk and liability, and that's definitely something you'd probably want to put into an LLC, and you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think that
There's a door. Door.
What's happening over there, Nikki? Do I need to come save you? Is this a cry for help?
Airbnbs. So yeah, I think that on the Airbnb front and just on the rental front, that I always advise clients is like when they're like, oh, like carpet house or this or that, like putting in more durable things. And then also like, you know, so where I'm going with this is like putting in, you know, a wood floor or a vinyl plank or something that like, you know, can be easily cleaned, right? Like carpet, like if you're doing it on a short-term rental or even a long-term rental, like it normally lasts for one rental. Like it's not like a carpet is like, you know, you're replacing that every year. So it makes sense sometimes on the front end to put in, you know, some of that more durable material to ensure that, you know, it can kind of withstand your tenants.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think that like for everyone that I know that does Airbnb, it's obviously more lucrative than a long-term rental, right? But there's also higher risk, right? So higher risk, higher reward. You're making more money on a monthly basis, but you're also, you know, if people aren't traveling to your area or if whatever happens, like you may not be having anyone in there, then obviously higher risk, vacancy risk.
And you'd want to find out like, hey, how many days do you need to rent this out? Is that, and there's data out there, right? There are different groups, and I have a friend who has about 75 Airbnb rentals all throughout the United States, and it's extremely lucrative for them, obviously, because they have a higher cost, and it is truly a business for them. So it's a little bit different than just, you know, you or myself or Nikki or whoever buying a home and just doing one Airbnb. But with that being said, just as you said, and it's funny because Gary Vee actually posted that today: high risk, high reward.
Me and Gary Vee.
Great minds.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Airbnb, I think, slightly more difficult, you know, because you want to be in a desirable area, lower cost, you know, all of the things, but definitely doable. But I would say you're going to want to look for a single family home in a desirable area with like safe parking, and lots of things that are durable, like floors and things. All right, rental market. I think this is what everyone wants to invest in, right? I want a rental property, right? That's how I invest in real estate. So let's talk a little bit about that. What thoughts do y'all have? Comments, questions, concerns? if you're out there watching, what thoughts do you have? Comments, questions, concerns?
I mean, there's so many different routes you can take, but I mean, I think Paige, obviously you can say a lot about this too, is finding one in maybe an up and coming area with a lower tax rate could make sense. You know, a lot of people have questions about condos and using those as rental properties versus townhomes versus single family homes. So.
All right, I guess let's unpack that. Let's start with developing areas that have lower tax rates, right? So Houston and Texas, sometimes people don't know that our tax rates tend to be a little bit higher than other states. We also don't have a state income tax. So for the most part, it balances out at the end of the day, right? But some of the master plan communities and, you know, newer construction in the, you know, big communities with the pools and the restaurants and all, you know, all that type of stuff. Tennis courts, yeah. Tax rates can go from 3.5. There are some out further west that are almost up to 4%. So just something to know. And yeah, tax rates are going to be higher. But in some of the developing areas or areas that have, you know, gentrification right now, like tax rates could be lower, right? Which helps the numbers. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, Paige, do you have any thoughts on that being the numbers one of the three of us?
I do. I mean, it's a strange concept, but I do. I mean, I think it's a good idea if you get into, you know, again, that low tax rate, low HOA, and you really allow yourself to get into those areas that are up and coming, because then you have the ability of twofold. You have the ability of charging maybe a higher, making a little bit more money than you normally would if you're going to those master plan communities. But then you have the twofold of, if you hold it for long enough, you have the ability to make the money once it's upped and
appreciate it.
It's there. I'm like, wherever it's at. Then you have the ability, like the people did that bought and sold in the Heights, you know, in between 2009 and 13, and they made hand over fist.
Yeah, I think the only caveat I would say on that is if you are buying new construction in a gentrifying area and you try to go to sell it in 2 years when they're still building those similar homes in the same neighborhood, you're going to have a difficult time selling it, right? So like if you buy a home now, it's new construction, that's great, but like it's not built out and there's still lots of vacant land. That means, and we're talking about like urban infill type stuff, not like out in the burbs, right? Like just asterisks there, but they're going to be building homes probably at a higher price, but not 50 grand higher next year or the year after, right? So like, it's definitely, in my opinion, a little bit of a longer term play. It needs to be at least 5, but 10 is definitely like that sweet spot. And we're seeing that in areas like East Downtown. We're seeing that in areas like Third Ward, you know, Independence Heights for sure. But like, here's my upside of doing that is who's buying those homes, those like sub 300, low 300 townhome style, you know, 3-4 story homes. Who's buying those?
Young professionals,
right? Who would you want to rent a home if you bought a home for 300K, you know, whatever, right? So it's like you have people that want to live in this neighborhood because that's where their friends are moving to, right? To Independence Heights, to East Downtown, to, you know, Third Ward, Second Ward, whatever it may be, Fifth Ward, right? You have people moving there, you know, that have a similar job to me, or, you know, my coworker or whatever it may be. So I think that there is upside in buying that new construction as a rental, or buying, you know, in, you know, gentrifying areas as a rental, because you're going to have people, you know, that want to live in there, but can't yet buy a house. And like, for a lot of those areas, the rentals like aren't great pickings for a tenant today. Right. So it's like, there aren't people buying new construction and renting it out, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay. So we talk about, you know, gentrifying areas, things like that. One thing that I think also plays in a part, and we see this a lot, is, okay, I live in my home. This is my home. I live here, right? I decide to move to a new home, right? And then keep this one as a rental.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm obsessed with it.
Well, so that's another thing too. I know you're obsessed with it. So that's another thing too, that I feel like if I'm buying that house in that low, you know, 300s, whatever, and it's not a good move to sell it today, maybe I want to be a landlord, maybe I don't, but I can sell this, or I can rent this, I can rent this and let it continue to appreciate over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years and sell it at a later date, perhaps. What does that look like, Paige, from like a mortgage standpoint? Like, can I go get another mortgage? Like, how does that work?
Yes. So let me backpedal a little bit and let's talk about investment property interest rates. So Fannie Mae 2 weeks ago, honestly, let's just say 2 to 3 weeks ago, came out and said, hey, lenders, we are only going to take 7% of your books as investment in second homes. And we're gonna raise your loan level price adjustments, which in turn raises interest rates. And so they did that, and lenders across the board raised their loan level price adjustments anywhere between 100 to 700 basis points. So 100 basis points is anywhere between an eighth to 1/4%. So you can just do the math as to where 700 basis points gets you. So basically those people that did anywhere between like 300 to 700 basis points, they're just pushing themselves out of that market on purpose. It's just like what Bank of America and Chase and all those big banks did whenever the refi boom hit. They pushed themselves out of that refi boom market. They raised their refi rates to like 6%. So it didn't make sense for anybody on purpose. And so with that being said, refi rates are still at an all-time low. That doesn't mean that they're extremely high, but instead of being at like 3.5, you're at like 4.25. And with that being said, you are still a tax deduction as long as the numbers make sense. So just keep that in mind whenever you're buying an investment property. Fast forwarding now, you live in this home. Nikki lives in her home and she's ready to get a pool. She said, we moving out, we getting a pool, but we want to keep this home because we got to pay for the pool boy. So we need to keep this home. I need some ROI, maybe. I need some ROI. I got to get some return on my investment. I need to keep this pool. These monthly bills, these pool bills add up. So totally makes sense. And yes, you can get another home. There are obviously, with anything lending, a couple of asterisks with that. But the main thing is one, you can qualify for another property as long as you can hold it. Or two, you can rent your property out and we would qualify you with the rental income. So you could still go you buy your current home at maybe a 5% down conventional. You're buying your next home at 5% down conventional. So you're basically getting an investment property that you normally have to put 15 to 20% down on for 5% down with a reduced interest rate. I love it.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it makes sense, especially like here in Houston, you've got a lot of people buying, young professionals buying inside the loop. And then, in town, and then, you have a kid or you want a dog or whatever. So you want to move to somewhere with a yard, or you want a pool and a pool boy, things like that. So,
the things you need.
What's weird about that is like someone in this room had been talking a lot about wanting a pool. Anyways, so primary residence to investment property, definitely a good move if you're thinking about maybe starting that rental, portfolio. And so generally, like if I were to do that, how long would I need to live in my house before I went to try to buy another one?
12 months.
Okay. So this could be an annual thing.
I'm trying to, I wish that I could get my entire household.
Right. What a jerk. All right. So rental properties. Let's talk more about rental properties. So we talked about primary residence to investment property. We talked about new construction and buying a new property in a gentrifying area. Let's talk a little bit about condos.
Yeah. Condos. So many different things come with the condo package. We have a lot of people that are interested whenever they start trying to get into the rental game, asking about condos. A couple of things to be on the lookout for is those HOA fees and how high they get. Some of the areas that you have majority of the condos like Galleria, downtown, medical center, because, you're going to have, tenants there. A lot of times, young professionals working in the medical industry. But whenever you start breaking down and looking at, those monthly prices, keeping in mind, like a lot of times those HOA fees can be $300 and up. So when you think about like your mortgage and the breakdown and how much money you're going to be bringing in for rent, and knowing the average rent that you're going to get for each of those areas, factoring in that HOA is going to be important, when you're speaking to your lender about the numbers.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. I think let's rewind even a little bit further from that before you even are able to get under contract on a condo. Is financing a condo easy, Paige?
Could be better, but it could be worse.
Like, no, so I mean, like, so FHA and VA with condos.
Nope. I mean, it's very rare that in Houston, there are 7 condos that are VA eligible, 7 condo units.
What's crazy is when I got into real estate, there were 20 and they expire. The VA eligibility for condo expires. So now there's only 7 apparently. So. Yeah.
And then FHA, there are like maybe 20, 25. But you have to think this is the entire Houston metro. I cannot talk tonight. The entire Houston metroplex. So it's not just like we're not just talking inside the 610 loop. We're talking about from Galveston to the Woodlands or Conroe or Huntsville to Katy or out past that to, Atascocita. So like this is everywhere in the greater Houston area. So, if you're going to get a condo, you need to be prepared to go conventional. You need to be prepared to go 5% down, and you need to be prepared for your interest rate to be about 0.5% higher than if you were to go not condo. I can speak on it, and I don't ever like condos make sense for some people, right? Like they totally do, and they're for the right buyer, a condo is definitely the way to go. But 90% of the time, when you're buying a condo, you could then go buy a $50,000 to $100,000 home for the exact same payment, just simply because the HOA dues are astronomically higher than, $300 is cheap. I mean, I'm in Midtown, they're about $2,000 a month. There's a specific condo that they're $2,000 a month, and that doesn't get you anything. That's just their fee. So, I mean, it's not easy. We do ask for longer turn times because we have a third party involved. We got to get condo approval. So, and then if your condo's not approved, then you're a non-warrantable condo, and that then requires anywhere between 20 to 40% down, and the rate's anywhere between 5 to 12%.
Yeah. So, just if you're looking to invest with a loan, make sure you're doing your due diligence and doing as much research as you can on the front end. I think that the HOAs, some of them do include utilities like cable, gas, water, trash, like all of the things. So like really all you're paying for is maybe, upgraded internet, right? But like some of them don't. Some of them it's because it's an older building. So I think that's like when someone's like, oh, I want to buy a $250,000 or less condo in Houston, like you're normally going to see, I would say, a $350 to $400, maybe $500 HOA fee up to, I've seen some in the Galleria in those older buildings that are like $1,000 a month.
I'm like, for what? For $1,000, you better be coming and doing my laundry.
You better provide a pool boy for that.
Yeah. I saw one under 200 and the HOA was 625. So it's like.
And that's a monthly reoccurring debt. And that's what I think people need to understand. That's not calculated annually. That's not picked up with your mortgage. It's completely separate. It's basically an additional bill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So definitely just something to consider. I mean, I think that like some people obviously have them and make the numbers work. I have plenty of clients that own condos and rent them. A lot of them though have like had them for a while, or perhaps it was a former residence, right? So you lived there for 2 years, 3 years, and then you moved out. I think just something to consider. If you're thinking about owning a condo or living in a condo and then perhaps renting it out at a later date, just really know what the numbers are for you and your carrying cost. And, if no one lived there, what it would cost you per month, and make sure the rent definitely exceeds that. Which I think kind of segues me into my next point, unless someone else had something to say about condos.
No, I mean, there's a lot more condos on the market right now than single family too. So
Yeah, and I feel like that's generally the case, right? Like the relative amount of inventory for condos is generally higher and moves a little slower than single family homes. So on that resale thing, I don't know what we're on. Market. Yeah, that's a market. You're right, Paige. Great vocab word. Thank you for the finger guns. So yeah, this segues me into a great point. Is a lot of people look for condos to, invest in, and I think like especially if you're doing that, hey, I'm going to live in it and then perhaps move out and rent it. Like, I think the single family home game is a pretty strong rental game versus the condos. Just because like condos are very similar to apartments, and like homes, provide a little bit more stable environment for a tenant. Generally, you can find better school districts. Generally, things are cheaper by way of HOA fees and things like that. Not necessarily in the larger communities, but like I feel like the numbers can work a little bit better, especially if you're living there and then you move out. Thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, anytime I'm working, obviously, like when we're working with people who are trying to find leases too, I see them leaning more towards like the single family townhouse versus a condo, just because of what you exactly just said exactly what you just said. But is a condo is so much like an apartment, and typically they're coming from an apartment, so they don't want that anymore. So they want that more of that home feel. And usually the condos are older too.
Yeah, for sure. I
think you're right. A home provides someone stability, and a lot of people desire that, A lot of people, when they're going from that apartment life, they want to feel like, that this is theirs, not in the sense that they own it, but like they don't have a neighbor like partying it up until 4 a.m. and they're, staying awake. And so that's another kind of downfall of a condo, is that you do have to deal with your direct neighbors. So, there are definitely pros of buying a condo. I mean, we do condo loans all the time, but they're for the right person. And so I just feel like a single family residence definitely fits that, or duplex or a triplex even, because you still give people the stability of like, hey, you've got a backyard, you have somewhere for your dog to run, you can hang out with your friends and grill. Like, there's space for you to, you're not just confined to these, 600 to 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, for sure. But I would say, with that being said too, just some of the HOA fees in some of the communities with lots of amenities are going to be high. So when you're running those numbers, especially if you're living in it, like what's your mortgage payment? What could rents be, depending on if it's new or resale? Like there should be buffer, and you should be putting away money each month for when something breaks. Not if, when, because something will break.
Yes.
Cool. What else? If you all are out there and watching and you have any questions in regards to investments, drop them in the comments below. What else by way of rentals do you guys, what are your thoughts?
Nikki, go
ahead, Paige. Go.
You got this.
No, something I was just going to kind of bring up back onto the HOA thing is like, if you are purchasing something as a rental or even just to live in, there are some communities in the loop or even just right outside the loop that give you that, some of the amenities like being gated and things like that, or maybe they're like smaller communities, but they have no HOA. So maybe that would make sense to invest in something like that. So you don't have the restrictions, and yeah, they're out there.
They definitely are.
Oh yeah. Paige, what were you gonna say?
So I would like to chat about down payment on investment properties, because I think it is a myth that you have to put 20% or 25% down on an investment property.
Okay.
You actually don't. You only need to put 15% down. And in some cases, it can actually make fiscal sense, because depending on obviously the hold rate and what the rent could be. But if you think about it from I'm going to purchase 3 investment properties. Well, if I put 15% down, I now can purchase a 4th investment property. That's what, this is when So it could just make sense, and you have the ability to hang on to some capital. So, I mean, 5% of $1,000 is $5,000. Yeah, I was like, whoa, Paige, calm down. It's like math is hard. But so with that being said, like 5% of 100,000, math is hard. 5,000, then 200,000 is 10,000, and then 300,000 is 15,000. So it's like, but having that extra money to hang on to, like, is that the difference between it making long-term sense if you have to replace your roof or get a new water heater or your tenant moves out unexpectedly? And so you have that additional kind of reserve, if you will. So we do try to, chat with our clients, if you will, about, if one will, about, what is that rental rate? What number does it need to be for it to make sense for you? And then let's chat about 15, 20, and 25%.
All right, got a question. Are there any restrictions for renting a property under an HOA? I know most residents in a community don't like renters in the neighborhood. So it depends on the HOA, right? Most of the suburban HOAs, if you Google them, you can find their restrictions online. So it's really helpful. Most suburban HOAs, you're going to be able to rent. Sometimes there may be restrictions for the duration. So a lot of times, pretty much a lot of them won't do like the short-term rentals. Some will, some won't, but that's something that they may have in there. Or they may say 6 months or more, right? Like that they have a minimum lease term required. And that's for homes, right? Some developers now are not selling to investors. They're only selling to owner occupants. So that's an HOA restriction that may exist. And then for condos, I would say it depends on the condo. Some will allow short-term leasing. Most won't. Some may allow 6 months or more. Some may require 12 months or more. Again, in condos. And then sometimes they'll require that they're approved by the board or approved by the HOA prior to being allowed in, or that they have to fill out an application with the board prior to moving in. So does that cover it all?
Yeah. And then, checking whether or not like the tenant owner occupancy percentage and where they're at on that, because sometimes you have to get on a wait list to be able to even, list your condo for lease.
Yeah. So
51%.
So yeah, what she's saying is some of the condos will have, and I guess it also plays in the loans too, but sometimes condos will have a specific percentage in their bylaws that you have to maintain of owner occupancy, right? And then sometimes in order to get a loan, it needs to be a certain percent, right?
Yeah, so for it to be warrantable,
yeah,
which is a standard Fannie Freddie loan, you have to have maintain 51% of owner occupancy at all times. When it becomes non-warrantable is when you hit that 50% or 50.99% or more, and then that's when that non-warrantable 5 to 12%. And so condos, I would assume, obviously I don't know, but I would assume they probably don't want to become non-warrantable unless they're like maybe in Galveston or on the lake or something like that.
Yeah. So just something to consider. HOAs do allow renting. It just kind of depends on the specific HOA and the specific situation. Great question. Yeah. So I think, all right, let's like recap a little bit, because I feel like we've kind of dug in pretty deep on the rental thing, because there were a lot of like sub rental markets to talk about. All right. So we talked about investments in general, right? Flipping and flipping, right? Fix and flip is what it's called. Flipping and fixing, right? And holding. I keep saying it's just 2 F words. F words I don't usually use. Fixing and holding, right, is the other one. And then we talked a little bit about Airbnb and short-term rental, long-term rentals as far as taking your primary residence and turning it into an investment property, condos, homes, new construction, and the works, right? I think the other thing to touch on too a little bit is like developments, right? And like investing in actually building those homes, right? And that's like, a little bit different. But let's, before we do that, hop to this question here. 51% owner occupancy. Do you mean the whole community, Paige?
Yes. So there's 100 units, 51 of those units have to be owner occupied.
Easy math when it's a 100-unit community. That's nice.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And the HOA, sorry, to how do we validate that is probably the next question in their mind. They have to fill out a condo questionnaire that every lender has. It's pretty standard. It's from Fannie Mae, sorry. And they fill out this condo questionnaire, and it says one of the questions is how many tenants are owner occupied and how many are non-owner occupied.
Yeah, for sure. So yes, that is the whole community. So yeah, I mean, I think finally is like doing a development, right? And actually physically building homes, right? So in that case, normally there's builders that take like outside money, right? That you can invest with. There's developers that take outside money. So you basically just like put your money into a fund and then you can expect a return, you know, as the project sells. And I think that's like another good alternative that's like a higher return than you putting money in a fund, like just a mutual fund or something like that, right? Or a bond or something. It's
401k.
401k, yeah. It's possibly lower than like the stock market, but I think a little bit generally less volatile than the stock market, right? So yeah, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
Nikki?
I was like, did I freeze? Do you not hear me? Do you not hear me? What are your
I
thoughts?
was waiting for Nikki.
That was me echoing in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
I think I mean, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that humans, this is like a whole bunny trail, but like humans are so Katie is scared right now. I can see the terror. It's good.
We're going deep tonight, guys. Humans, let's go.
Humans. So we are so traditionally used to our parents who have their 401k and Social Security, and that's what they live off of, and they've saved for their nest egg. And so they worked until they were 65, 70, so on and so forth. But that's not my dream. Like that might have been my mom's dream or my grandpa's dream, but like for most people in the millennial category, that is not our dream. Our dream is not to work until we're 65 and 70. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you know, there's literally nothing wrong with it. But I think with that being said, we have to be a little bit more advantageous with investing our money wisely and being a little bit more aggressive and not just hanging out with our 5% rate of return 401k and hoping and praying that Social Security is around whenever we were ready to retire. So I think, yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, we can't. Let's pause on that part, but continue the rest of your.
Yeah, but with that being said, a good way to do that, and I'm knocking on wood when I say this, secure way to do that is through investing in real estate. That is something that is, while it goes up and down, it always comes back up. It's not something that stays down. So it's just something that, like, while you might find that we're up, sure, we're going to go down, but we're going to come right back up. And we typically always peak up higher than we peaked the last time. So I just think that if you don't want to work until you're 65 or 70, or maybe you do want to work till then, but you want to be able to have something, like take trips or do whatever, or like pay for your kids' college tuition. We have people that literally are buying homes now to then cash out in 15 to 20 years to pay for their kids' tuition. So, I mean, it's a super smart investing plan.
Paige, this is a great question for you. How do you scale up your investment properties without over leveraging yourself with loans? I want to retire in 10 years. Obviously, without knowing their full financial picture, we're not giving a retirement plan here, but what would be, I mean, you're the mortgage chick. Isn't that your handle? HL mortgage chick. But yeah, you're a mortgage gal, right? So like, I don't want to over leverage myself. What would be your advice?
I mean, honestly, over leverage yourself on loans because money's so cheap right now. Like seriously, like money is so cheap right now. Why would you utilize all of your liquid assets or most of them and not take full advantage of a 4% interest rate?
Or maybe let's think about this a little bit more long term, right? Like,
yes.
I don't want to take out a loan every year for the next 10 years. Like what would be some other creative options maybe what are your thoughts there, I guess?
I mean, I guess a couple of flips and then utilize that money. I mean, really the best way would be to take out, I'm in lending, and so I think the loan option makes sense rather than leveraging your cash, because cash is king. So I see what you're saying. I'm hearing you, but I'm also saying, where else are you going to get what else is giving you that great of return for that little of a cost?
So I guess my argument to that was, and this was like full disclosure, we were looking for these properties in 2018 and 2019 when interest rates were a lot higher than they are today, right? So like
For sure.
2019 interest rates were 4% and change. So that means an investment was a little higher than that, right?
6%,
so
yeah.
So like at whatever point I was looking for investment properties for rental properties, the numbers didn't work, right? Because like if I have a margin, and I'm super risk averse, right? So if I have a margin of only 100% or 100%, God, what am I saying? $100 to $200 a month, right? Is that margin of like my mortgage payment and then the rental amount? Like that scared me, because I'm like, oh, when the AC goes out, like there goes my profits for the next 2 years, right? So like buying real estate is great, but if you're not doing it in a safe or smart way, like no, that's stupid. Don't buy a house.
Right now, it makes sense, but in 3 years, it probably would not make sense to, when the rates are higher, it probably would not make sense to do that.
Leverage credit cards and refinance to pay back, or Bitcoin's another option. One, like, I know I see the little crying face, so I'm going to assume that this is a joke, but taking a cash out refi to pay off credit card debt could be a smart idea, or refinancing your house and getting cash out and paying off credit card debt could be a good way to, but don't go buy shit on credit cards and then refi to pay it back. But if you already have that debt and you have equity in your home, that could be a good option. So just throwing that out there. Bitcoin. Did you guys see that Ryan Serhant reel on his Instagram where he was saying that basically some guy on $1 Million Listing, and I don't watch the show, I just follow him on Instagram. Some guy on the show like a few years back tried to buy an apartment in New York with Bitcoin, and he's like, no, give me cash or don't. And he was like, I would be a billionaire right now if I would have taken that. Like, he was like, I would have been a billionaire. But I mean,
Bitcoin is a little hairy for Fannie Freddie, so we can't use it. So
well, I don't know,
but I agree.
I didn't watch the episode, so I don't know. Like the situation around it could have been that it was like, I'll pay your commission in this or I'll whatever, and he's like, no, like I just want cash, like give me money. I don't know, but just kind of funny. And for the stuff he sells, it was probably just some guy that had Bitcoin and wanted to buy the freaking apartment with just Bitcoin because he had enough cash to do it. But like, whatever. So if only. So yeah. So for us, doing a loan to buy a rental property didn't make sense, right? But today, like I haven't looked because now we're on to other things. But like, today that could be something that would make more sense because interest rates are a lot lower than they were in 19 and 18 when I was looking, right? So my 2 cents. But yeah, I mean, I would look for I would look for properties in areas that have, high rental potential. I would look for properties that aren't at the top of the market. I don't know what else. Yeah. Look for things that if it wasn't rented, you could still afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So those are my 2 cents.
All of it.
Cool. Any other thoughts on investing?
Nope. I think it's super smart if you play obviously, just like with anything, just like with any investment, like obviously there are a lot of pros. And so we're like talking about this and it's like happy-go-lucky, but there are also like cons, right? Just like we talked about. So it's like, sure, you can make a bad investment on the stock market. You can make a bad investment in real estate. So like, don't think that it's just like all like rainbows and sunshine. There can be, some negative things that could happen. But it definitely can be a good way, I think, to think about your long-term.
Yeah, for sure. Because in theory, in 10 years or 20 years or whatever, it's going to be worth more than it is today. And you can sell it for monies or Bitcoins.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
this is great.
if feel like what?
I feel like this is good.
Yeah, it's a topic that I know you enjoy talking about. So for those of you out there that are still watching, we are live every other Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central, talking about all things real estate. Eventually, we will be together eating tacos. But the more that I think about it, like unless we're doing it at someone's house or in one of our offices, I think that it'll be difficult to go somewhere and try to eat tacos and actually have an educated conversation about real estate. No, I'm being serious. Like it'll be loud. Yeah. There'll be people there. So like I think that it should be like in one of our offices or like homes. But I'm totally down to meet up and eat tacos and talk.
Yes,
because I love tacos.
We'll honestly, pick them up from somewhere.
Listen, May 4th, y'all. That's gonna happen only because Cinco de Mayo is the next day, and we have to have tacos.
Is that the next Tuesday we'll be together?
No, we have 2 Tuesdays in April. But I'm just planning ahead.
Oh God,
that's a long.
She's totally skipped over April. She said we don't even need to worry about that. That month is a present.
Y'all. And then I went to April, and I was like, no, the next Tuesday we're together is going to be the 6th. Yep, that is April 6th. April 6th we'll be together. April 20th, and May 4th. All right.
Perfect. Tacos it is. It's gonna happen, guys.
Okay, well, thank you all for your time. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. Very much appreciated. Drop your comments, questions below. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks in April. Hold on. Let me make sure. We look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks in April, on April 6th at 6:30 p.m. Central. All right, y'all.
Bye.